There you go.
And so one of the things that I noticed, and I'm not sure if I sent you the photo, little screen grab or not.
Yeah, I think I saw a screen grab. It just showed where the
But
disjoint was.
yeah, well, I got that part figured out. We had to split it into two different named alignments, and
Right.
picked up this, kept the stationing as it continued into the second. So that part was fine.
Oh, it
Uh,
kept the stationing, so when I profile it, that's not going to be an issue, right?
well, you're going to wind up having two profiles.
Oh,
You got,
okay.
but that's fine though, because when you do that, you can just match them up, snap grid point, and put them together, so it'll all look like one. Let's see.
Interesting. Okay, yeah. So we just change the stationing when you snap them together to make it look like one.
Yeah, because I ended the first alignment at, I don't know, station 2+00, whatever it was, some even nominal station, and then picked up the second one right at that same thing. So what we had to wind up doing was make that. Uh, oh, sorry about it. We had to make that into. We run the first one and then find that elevation for that ending station to make sure that was the starting elevation for the second one.
Mhm.
So it's a little bit less than total automation, but that's, and I come doing some further research too, is that that's exactly how uh, all these other packages like Civil 3D and all that have to do it.
Yeah.
So, but now what I was, let's see, back here to Towpath. Um, let me see. Let's see. Was this? No, it's a different. Figure that. Yeah. Okay. So I don't. I don't know where it did. I may have not saved it. I think all I did was uh, just captured it for the email back to tech support. But um, so here's what you see, this orange outline. That's the
Yes.
shape of that road that gets modeled. So this area in here is where it blew out that last time.
Yes.
But you can see in here, we come up here and ended at right at this station 12+00. And that's where the second road started up
Mm.
again. It
Oh,
has a starting station at 12+00, and it
yeah.
comes in. It takes care of that beautifully. But what the weird thing was, remember how nice and neat this front thing matched?
Yeah.
Well, watch what happens
Fell
here.
apart again, yeah. This is being
Well,
recorded again, right?
yes, it is.
Okay.
So,
Perfect. Yeah.
so in fact, here, let me
I
save
never would be able to recreate this myself, so
save a little bandwidth there. I'll turn the video off. And so, if you go to, oh,
process, yeah.
sorry, network. There we go. So, so here is the main towpath. Let me set the display on so you can see it. So there that goes around to there. Okay,
Mhm.
and then towpath ending starts there and goes to there. All right.
So
So
it didn't form an intersection at the interface of the two roads.
that is
Okay.
correct. Well, no, yeah, correct. No, it doesn't. It forms this intersection though.
All right. Well, that's kind of nice. I was worried about that.
There, yeah. See, that one gets formed. And
Okay.
I was thinking that this would pick up as an intersection, but apparently it doesn't when it's the exact, when it's dead on. So, so that worked. That took care of this out here. Now, the problem was once this happened, uh, like what you can see when I process this again. Let me do this. Well, before I do that, let's do process.
Mhm.
You're going to see what it does is it actually creates. the road correctly, like we saw it the last time up there at the end,
Mhm.
because you'll see all the 3D line work come into play as soon as it finishes up here. Wow, it's really slow. It's got a lot of crap it's got to straighten up. By the way, I changed that down here, Tonawanda. It was misspelled. I think I may have mentioned it to you before. Just
Thank you. No
before,
problem. I need all the
before
help I could get.
well, I just mean before you turn it in. All the other, the other three or four different instances, it had it spelled correctly. This one just had it was instead of
Mhm.
Tawanan, it was Tanawan. The
Yeah, nothing like
A
an
and the N
Indian
were
spell
there.
check, right?
Yeah. So so what had happened, and you see these yellow lines. Come on.
Yes.
Um, shoot, I can't get my cursor back. It's right in the face. It's taking a sweet time here. I can't even point to it. It won't move my mouse.
Is it processing?
Yeah, it's a writing triangulation file, so it's writing the file.
Hmm.
And okay, so now it the problem is it's not Carlson that's being slow, it's my computer. Once it loads everything up, it's got
Uh-huh.
all kinds of crap that it's got to load up to support the operating system, and that's part of what is going on.
Oh, you don't use Windows?
Oh, it's Windows, but it's not
Oh.
Windows on the Windows machine. It's running on a Mac. So it's
Oh,
actually
interesting.
Windows is a program that the Macintosh is running. So
Oh, okay.
man, it's all done through emulation.
All
And,
right. I get it.
and it doesn't, it only does this when it first starts. And so I normally would have this up and running. Um, then then once everything's up and going, it's fine. So it let us get started, and then it's starting to catch up with all the other crap it's got to load.
Mhm.
So, all right,
Right.
it'll get here. Okay, there we go. All right. So you see these yellow lines out in here, are these yellow edges.
Yes.
That is all that 3D edges for the road. And
Okay.
in fact, if we take a look at this,
Mhm. Yes.
all right, so you see it actually created it exactly like it should be with
Mhm.
this
With that little jigger
section
thing
here.
from before, yeah.
We'll do the old new road. We'll add it on top here. Now you see how
Mhm.
the actual
Didn't stretch it to the
surface
end.
file. Well, so I started looking at it pretty closely, and what I found out when I looked at that outline, which was or is, come on, back on here. Yep, there we go. So this outline lays over top of the line work that is created, and this one is that outermost, supposed to be that daylight line that touches down. Okay, uh, so what this did? Let me see if I can just isolate.
Mhm.
Uh, come on, still sluggish out over here, slugging out on me. All right. So if I can isolate this and then this stuff. Anyway, let me see if I can't talk to you through this. Anyway, the
Mhm.
cyan, the light blue colored lines, and this yellow
Yep.
line here, that's
Yeah.
the road. Those are the 3D edges of the road that gets formed. And so it all got
Mhm.
formed just like it always did.
Mhm.
And then this point right here, where this brown line now, which was that border, it
I
goes
see.
to the furthest point that was pushed out. Okay, because if you remember this, the point that we're pushing is the edge of the pavement. That was the TG.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
everything behind TG also gets pushed. So
Mhm.
dog gets pushed, 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 and it gets pushed out to here. And that is the finest or the final, well, actually, the blue, end of the blue line is the last push point, and then it does the cut and fill catch slope. And that's where
Yeah.
that point is there. And so normally when it is finding the bounds of a surface, it goes to those outermost points and then walks around that edge all the way around the surface. So it
Mhm.
did that part okay, except see the problem is when you start a road model, a road alignment, it's defined that little 12-foot lane or 8.5-foot lane, whatever it is. Um, and so it's expecting that outermost catch points to
Mhm.
be perpendicular to the center line. But the problem is at
Mm.
this point it's not. Okay, so
Mhm.
if you can imagine that this is just a straight piece of road that goes on up this way and it goes out there,
Yeah.
that well, that's correct. That's the way you should do it. So you know, if this one would ever get back, I apologize for this. It's just going to be
All
sluggish
right.
until it catches up. But anyway, the what would happen is that it behaves as if it expects it to be perpendicular on the extremes of the alignment.
Right.
But as you can see, it went ahead and created, it did everything that it's supposed to do with the line work, but it jumped to those back points. And if you
Yeah.
trace it all the way across the intersection, that's where the back point is on the other side. And that's it. And you can see it's a slanted line that's coming across the front. And that was the way the surface overlaid those lines in the 3D viewer. Well,
Maybe that. Yeah. It's probably why Lon wanted us to
well,
do the
yeah.
road with a
So,
fake.
well, that was his conclusion was that, well, why don't you try making a little piece of a road up there so it can treat that as an intersection? And that's exactly what we're going to need to do, I think. But I
Okay.
want to get into that because it's not very well surveyed up there, and this should work. That's what I told him. I said, I mean, I understand
Mhm.
all that, and we can do that,
Yeah.
but
Shouldn't have to do it.
yeah, I mean, if you think through the logic of the way the software works, that shouldn't be a limitation, or if it is, it needs to be
Yeah.
documented. And then he said that he sent it up to Dave Carlson to investigate a little further. Yeah, anything about it. But anyway, the interesting part is this.
Yeah.
Because remember, we were working on just that little 200-foot section of road, and we got
Uh huh.
everything working right,
Yeah.
and the last time. Well, why
Yeah.
that happened was I had in the settings, because I only went up so many stations, and I unchecked process intersections because even though we said stop at 250 feet up the road,
Mhm.
because it had that other intersection, it goes all the
Right.
way to it until it encounters that intersection,
Mhm.
which took all the way around to the end of the road. So it kept on processing. The only way I could get it to stop doing that and to stop at our 250 feet was to tell it to not do the intersections because that intersection part is what overrides that length, and it doesn't necessarily do the whole road, but it would go up to your station limits, and then it would go up and find the intersections and go to that most, whichever is the furthest intersection, which in our case was at the end of the road. So it wound up doing the whole road. So We
Mhm.
turned the intersection processing off and it finds it just fine. It creates the
Yeah.
surface just fine. When you turn the intersection processing back on, even though it creates the line work, apparently when it's trying to put the boundary on the surface, and this is for whatever reason, it doesn't make any sense from a
Right.
programming standpoint as to why it would in that instance then go out and grab that backmost road, except maybe that's, it's looking at a different, when it's not processing intersections for whatever reason, it's, I see how it came about. Because what you're looking at right here, this, if you can see through the gray, this curved part of this road, that would normally be what's in an intersection, right?
Yes, that's exactly right.
So because that is not, when it creates all this stuff, it's not coming from the intersection processing, it's coming from template point center line and template point
Yeah.
profile processing. Okay.
Yeah.
So when that happens, it's,
Well, yeah.
uh, um, it's like it creates that line work first as part of the center line processing. So were this a straight piece of road, maybe at a four-way intersection, and this was what we want to see at the intersection, what happens if you watch a road network process, you'll see all those straight pieces of road get created first. And then it goes back and builds these intersecting parts. And that's the part of processing intersections. And so when it does that, that's why it goes out and has to grab that backmost line
Yeah.
to include in that wraparound. Otherwise, if you're not processing it, it thinks everything is just normal. So it
Mhm.
just surrounds everything created. Now, my question to tech support slash programming department would be, why don't you collect the data the same way, even after you
Sure.
process the intersection? Don't, for whatever reason, switch your focus from everything to just the back line, because there's no reason to do that. That brown line that wraps around there and cuts off the surface build, that should be done almost like a like a shrink wrap. So I mean, I could build this surface by
Yeah.
isolating just those 3D lines. In fact, that's what we would do if I can't get that thing to fix. I would just manually create the surface.
Like we did the median,
Yeah,
kind
exactly.
of. Yeah.
And so,
You
but
know, that's not a bad.
no,
Yeah.
so
Well, let's
so
see.
that's the one
Yeah.
approach. Now, if we do though, if we do model Tawan, not, the road, whatever that road is out there. If we do model just a little piece of that as another road, then we can have this thing work process and it will process correctly. But what I was trying to avoid was having to do that because I don't have as much data out there as I would like. And um, and again, the thinking on this should be such that we could do exactly what we tried to do.
Mhm.
So our trade-off then is going to be, well, do we need to uh, use this to generate the lines? We see that the lines generate correctly, then we can quickly build our own road. But our road, when we build that surface, we're going
Mhm.
to get just one continuous surface. We can't really color code the triangles like they do with part of the processing. And, uh, it basically would be a manual build each time. And if your templates had subgrade materials with depths and stuff formulated in the templates, part of the road network processing builds those surfaces and computes all of that material volumes, which you wouldn't get if you had to go back and build your surface after the fact. So that
Mhm.
was why I was trying to avoid that. Now, there's, I don't know what's going to go on with this thing. I'm going to try to, let's just do this. Apparently, there's something it's not liking. Yeah, because that part's running okay. When well, 'cause we got the one thing going for us that you're doing your volumes by a different method, so we're not having to rely on that for subgrades. So that may still be okay for what we do. We can also, because even though it calculates that one surface a little bit incorrectly,
Mhm.
we could, I mean, we could build the surface manually after we were done with that, and then merge just that little front sliced off sliver into this one that got sliced back. And
Yeah.
as we put those together, then we could actually go in and change the colors to match. Um, if we ever needed those colors to be there. So that's what I was trying to get. So this being, let me put that down to say a little bit, not quite so hefty. None of those. Let's see here. Oh, sorry. It's not just that it doesn't just have a line weight, it's got an actual width. And I did that just to be able to see it. There we go. Now let's put that back on. It's a little bit better. Um, so this being the actual boundary, you can see what it actually surrounded
Yes.
was that which was the catch from,
The
that's
template
part
point
of,
extension. Yeah.
that's part of the template. That's part of the template, and that's where the cut fill bank went. And so it calculates then that part all the way across its length. But normally it thinks it's out here, but pushed it around here, and then and so and this is just some line work that I used to fix up that little kink based on the bad existing grade that's in there,
Yes.
and then also right in here,
Mhm. Kind of hook back in, right?
because when we take that template
Mhm.
and push it, da-da-da-da-da, take our road. All right, so there's the one that got chopped off. Like I said, we could make another surface including these lines, merge it, and then we could, if we ever needed to display it, we know which triangles need to be yellow, which need to be green, which need to be that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But if we were to turn that uh, back away, let me see if I've got the other surface, new road, edited, medium, let's do the medium road. Yeah, there we go. And I will turn that one off. So here's what we did before when we had the
Yeah, I remember.
other.
So why did it work? I forgot why did it work this time, but not the other. I mean, I know we did a bunch of iterations, but at least we got it to go all the way to 0 plus 0 0.
Well, it's because let me put this existing ground in here as well. Now let me do this. File exceeds. That's fine. What is going on? Right. Oh, I know what it is. I was doing that. And I want to put that back. I need to change this. Yeah, can't use that by the beginning. All right. So, um, so this being the existing ground,
Okay.
and let's see the
So it kind of it formed that yeah, surface there. Yeah.
see the turn this way and then this way. So just like we put in the median,
Yes.
we would need to put this bit in because it can't really, that's part of that surface. I want to see the other one we had, which was, it's hard to see without. Anyway, what happened was that this end, this outside edge of it,
Mhm.
it came across right through here from this curb line, which normally would have gone, up at that slope at the sidewalk area and come across. And it did do that, but the existing ground underneath it
Mhm.
was missing that information. So it had
Mhm.
basically where you could look up under the edge of the rug, so to speak.
Oh.
And so
So
all
there
I,
was no tin underneath there, no existing tin underneath there. Is that what
well,
happened?
no, there is. Can you see that?
I can see that fine.
Let me get a different color for this one. It might make it easier. Maybe why I changed it earlier.
Mhm.
Okay, now that'll be better. So if you'll look between, watch as I move it up. You see,
Mhm.
so you see those blue lines and that green line down in the ditch. That
Yes.
would where that road would tie in to that existing ground because
Right.
the tie lines from this
Mhm.
process. Remember, we pushed this out here, pushed all that.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
it's it's only taking the point of the template, and at station 0, that template point is way out here now, and it's been turned
Mhm.
around. So it's only pushing out those edges, and it takes that edge there and
Mhm.
pushes it to the existing ground. Whereas
Mhm.
if we had this straight to the center line, and this was another road out here too, then that road tries to catch existing grade, which it would do out there. We would merge edges of pavement and we'd get pushed back here, and then it would fill that in. So
Mhm.
if and see, and I'd also noticed this. Same thing happened on the other side, but I didn't put that other little piece on it. here, but if we look at,
Mhm. Yeah, I think that you're gonna be okay because remember I'm gonna be required to fill in that existing ditch with a
oh,
culvert
oh yeah,
pipe.
yeah. No,
So
that's
we're gonna have to end up doing when we get to the next phase of this project, which is to grade the housing on the road, is fill that in because there are some properties on the road there.
yeah, yeah. I see how the buildings out here. But if this were the case, because that was left up there, like I said, you could look up under the rug and see that space.
Yes.
And all I did was I took a 3D polyline and I
Yes.
went because these are the ends of all of these other 3D lines that are sticking out. Okay, if I
Mhm.
just
Yeah, we just projected down with a pad command, right?
exactly right,
Yeah, just like we did the median, a little similar to the median, not exactly like the median. We used tin
right,
utilities for the median.
right. So I went from there up to here, back to here, back to
Well,
there.
nothing wrong with that, because
And so that made the little tag on piece, just like we had with the median up here, and we could do all of that together if that's what we do.
yeah,
Yeah,
we could stitch that together with the tin utilities command, right?
exactly. So
Okay.
now, so back to your question a second ago about why this happened.
Mhm.
Well, when when you go to if you turn the settings off, this it's this process intersections.
Mm.
Now I'll do this, and you'll see it's going to do it for the entire road, and you'll see it'll correct it out here this time.
Mhm. Mhm.
And let's see what it is for the section of triangles, and right at the file, and boom, there it is. And there now is
Interesting.
that. Where's my file?
Mhm.
Where's that? That's the time. There's two, so I want to put time on the bottom.
Mhm.
There it is. Now there's my the paper boundary. Let me make that layer. So see it.
So this is simply because we did a template transition. Is that correct?
No, not exactly. Here, let's see. This was.
I was thinking if only I'd gotten rid of that gutter, we wouldn't be. Oh,
Right.
I was going to use a standard curb, you know, and then that would have probably not happened. But
No, no. See here we turned the intersection processing on.
yeah.
Notice that the boundary now, this orange line, defined. And in fact, if I look at this newly created surface called New Road that was in, you see
Mhm.
down at this place, it's with the exception of these little triangle pieces that happened. We can't fix that other than manually fixing it. But it comes all the way out to the road here, and there's that lifted up edge that we have to tie back down
Mhm.
around that part of it. Um, so this part happens now because we're not processing the intersections. It's
Right.
just gathering up all of the uh, all of
All
the
right.
outside lines. It's gathering up everything that's defined. When it
Mhm.
processes intersections is where it does this, and as you can see, we obviously need to process intersections.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's exactly right.
this ends right there. And so to process intersections, what happens is it builds all of the 3D lines for each road, and
Transitions it together. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it builds them independently, and then it goes back and it examines all of these things that it finds that edge of pavement, which is that's the point we said we want to use in our intersection processing. to blend. In fact, if we had said use the sidewalk point, the pavement would just go straight across, and but the sidewalk and everything behind it would be the line.
Mhm.
So, our lines got created, well, not this time, but when we run it again, you would see those yellow lines. So, but it builds them first straight through, and then straight through,
Yes.
and then looks at where those intersections are defined, and it goes back and finds that edge, and then
Mhm.
creates that innermost edge, and then projects it out to the ground and ties all of
Mhm.
that stuff together. So
Mhm.
when it sees that change, when you say in your settings, when you turn
Right.
the part on to process in,
Process. Yeah.
for whatever reason, it's now no longer looking at just everything that was done, sort of a shrink wrap. It's looking only along that last edge, that last outermost edge. And again, if this wasn't curved, if it came in straight, and it would start at the center line, go to the edge of the pavement, go to the sidewalk, and this and the other, and catch the slope, and that point happens to be lined up with zero, same thing over here, and so it would, it would correctly grab everything around
Mm.
our set of 3D lines. And so that's
Okay.
the problem right here at the start, is that it's pushed this out in the intersection processing. It switches looking at just the line work, and it starts to look at how these altered edges have changed, and so it only goes and finds that outer edge. So it's sort of a disappointing issue to me that, and yeah, we can build a little piece of road, and that's probably what we're going to,
Mhm.
but, um, the thing with that, let's see, we'll do just that edge. We will have to create, in fact, there's 2D there. Do we have 3D? No, we don't even have anything on there, do we? Where did see these uh, elevations, they came from just looking at the surface, right?
Well, it came from sampling the surface using the elevation label or the spot elevation
Yeah,
Carlson command.
right. That's what I'm saying is we found out what those elevations were by we have the existing ground
Sampling the tin.
and sampling that tin. In fact, there is the boundary of that tin file, but this stuff out here is really poorly defined.
Yeah, I'd have to almost have to redo that road. I would have to thin out. I don't know what I would do. I would have to look at the spot elevations
Well, I mean,
and make a new tin out of that road and use tin utilities to cut it
well,
in
I
because
mean,
it's.
it's this one is. Uh,
I mean, the guy didn't even shoot the water in the creek. I was a little upset, but you know.
yeah, I mean, here is, and it could be said maybe that's the roadside ditch, and maybe that's done well enough. But I, you see these big flat looking triangles across there.
Yeah,
Uh,
there is a driveway there, but still, the road was poorly defined. You usually shoot a center line
yeah, I mean, but all of this,
every 20 feet.
and
Yeah.
I don't care if you shoot it once down here and once down here if it's mostly flat, but you connect those 2 points up and say that's a brake line, and the center of the
Yeah.
road is a brake line. That's a brake line because right now you can see that that's just, you know,
The brake lines go right through the center line of road.
yeah. In fact, if let's turn this back. I'm looking at the surface. Let's see if it will let me. We can see the results of it in just a second. Just primary edges.
Yeah. You can see it's just cutting right through. I mean, they had no center line of road of brake. There had no center line of road brake line
There
at
none.
all.
There only seems to be. Well,
They
let's see
didn't really go out of their way to create the
if I
surface tin
turn
accurately.
to there, And
And
see, it's unable to add it. That's what
I
I.
suppose they could have added just a brake line would have better defined it, maybe.
Yeah, see, yeah, it won't let me. There's too many things on the periphery down here. But if I could do, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not letting me do it. But if I were to be able to add the center of the road and the edge of the road
Yeah.
as brake lines and add those to this file, then and I can do that pretty quickly. That's not any. I can't do it in here. I have to do it out here separately. And that would help give us an edge to tie down to because otherwise, if we just sample that surface
Mhm.
where those points are, that we're accurate in the sense that we're measuring quote the existing ground, but is that
Mhm.
really the way the edge of the roadway happens?
Yeah. Do you think that's the way to do it in this case when until Carlson fixes their command that's supposed to work like it's supposed to? Do you think using the lines method of using a
Well,
fake little segment of road, do you think that'll eliminate all of our problems? Is it worth doing that with the center line of the road
well, very
just
possible,
until we get yeah.
because that's not it's not that hard to do. Not that it's just I was you know, kind of helped me because I like to have that ultimate control over that edge. Right now, what happens? I've got this. I've got this edge
Mhm.
that's normally defined just straight out, straight out.
Mhm.
This edge is defined straight out on the main Tonawanda Road,
Right.
and you call this one the main road, and as it goes by, so it stays alone, and then this one intersects it, and it goes, aha! I see. I've got matching edges of pavement. That's my.
Yeah.
And so it goes from where it thinks it is out here, it knows where it is out here on this road, and then it takes
Right.
that radius and all that, and it
Mhm.
calculates where that's going to go, and then it starts building that in
Yeah.
at the radius. But we don't have just a
Yeah.
simple curve here. We've got a curve, and we're wider, and then we
Yeah.
come back in here. So we would still, after we get past the circular part of this curve, we then
Right.
still have to do a
Templates
template.
transitioning. Yeah.
Yeah, or we
Well, let
would have
me
to
yeah.
do a transition template. Okay, we'd
Well,
have
let
to.
me ask you this: if we use the lines method of making the dummy road,
Mhm.
um, would the software know to cut off the new road at 0 + 0 0, or would it try and tie the center line of the new road into the center line of the existing road? It would know enough not to,
Oh,
you know, because
that's a
because you're
good.
making a dummy road with a center line
Yeah,
that's
it's the
at least
center
30
lines.
feet away.
Yeah, it's the center lines that have to intersect, not the center line and the edge of the pavement.
Yeah,
So
I'm a little nervous about that. I mean,
yeah, I'm
how would
wondering
it know to stop the grading right at the edge of pavement?
if it wouldn't, but we
Yeah,
could.
that's the only reason why I didn't. His method kind of didn't make. I know what he was trying to do. He was trying to get the flare to work without going through the template point transition. But
Right.
I don't think. I don't know. From what
Well,
I know about the command, I don't think there's a way to tie.
no, no, no.
Even if you call the edge of pavement a center line, there's no way to. Yeah.
Well, no, here's what you could do, Andrew. You could, let's say this center line went to this other center line, okay? And I
Yes.
don't know how many, well, I'll tell you exactly how many feet that's going to be. So, wait a second. We'll just draw from the end of that right there to perpendicular to that line, and then that line is uh, 19.71 feet, 709.
Mhm.
We would make this alignment start at station minus 19.71.
Ah.
Okay.
Okay.
And then we would restrict the processing in, oh, not there, but
Mm,
in the road
I gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
up here where we had this station stood a full range, we would start it at 0 to 2, or and
Huh.
0, whatever the last station is. Okay,
That's an interesting. That's an interesting idea.
so that would do all of that, and then it would trim it off at that point. But now,
Would Okay.
uh,
Would it
now,
still
like I
allow you to
said,
do template?
well, like I
Wouldn't it?
said, that it would do that. I'm assuming it would do that because that's the way it would have to work based on
Yeah.
know that it would do. So,
Would it still allow you to do a template point transition? I can't see why not.
well, yeah, I don't either, except we're starting it in the transition, whereas
Mhm.
let's
Yeah,
think.
I can't see why not. I guess it would be an interesting. I don't know what to do. Do you think it would be?
Yeah,
Think
we'll
we could
see
do a
if
separate
we.
file
Well, I mean,
later?
here's the thing that Lon's not understanding either is that,
Mhm.
if I'm trying to get this to match out here, well, that's fine as long as all I'm doing is like I did up here with now these. You just look at the blue lines as a
Mhm.
as if those were the ones that created. So
Mhm.
if this road is, a consistent width all the way across, and this road is a consistent width all the way across it through its length, then
Mhm.
these things become pretty trivially easy. And that's why he's wondering, well, okay, it should work out here. And it would, except for the fact that I'm wider. Let's say this circle gets finished as far as the intersection goes. All right, so we've computed intersection, we put that in. But then where that PT is out here, that point is further away from the center line than up here, you see. So at that point, I'd have to find out where that point is, which is not hard to do. And I'd have to have a template of that width. And then I'd have to have my template out here of this width. And I
Mhm.
have to use a transition, a template
Mhm.
transition, and not a template. No, I guess we use a template transition because a template series differs from a template transition in the sense that the template series is typically done for when you have a different template with different components in it.
Right.
And
Right.
a template transition is the same template, but you give it a
Mhm.
station start and stop point where the offset values are different.
Mhm.
So that part should maybe be okay. So, but again, what we'd have to do is if these are 25-foot radius curves, I'm going to have to come up to station 25 because that's where that radius would end, assuming these intersect at 90 degrees. Let's see, and they don't exactly, but so that lends itself to all kinds of additional complications that if we just simply did this part and let it go, the line work creates itself beautifully.
Mhm.
It's the boundary that, for whatever reason, gets confused. Now,
Mhm.
it's not simply that I can do, uh,
Mhm. So they're aware of this. They're looking into it, right?
yeah, and
Mhm.
so it's because of this and because of that boundary. This They go through the process of building the surface out of those lines, putting the boundary on it, and chopping it off at that boundary. So what we can do, like I said, is we can build a surface of the lines and just merge the two together. And when we build our surface out of all the lines, then we can use a little, the leftover part of that other surface. We can either merge, or we don't even. I mean, I was going to say we could slice our surface off along that same line and merge the two together, but we wouldn't really need to do that because it is the same surface from that point forward. We could just
Mhm.
merge the two and tell it to ignore the parts that are the same. Now,
Mhm.
here's another interesting issue, though, You see that? How it cuts across here, so it ends that first alignment, and then it picks up the second one. But
Yes.
if you select this line, you see that's an inner point here,
Mm.
and if I select this one, that's one there. But now look what happens. Let's just take do this so you can see that. Oh, there's line right there. Let me do that one, and I'll get this one too. Bump and then bump, bump, bump. Here we go. All right, so there's the 3D of that catch line. Now watch what this surface does. And that's this one.
Right.
Now again, we've got that cut off down here, but oh yeah, see it
Mhm.
still cuts off. Um,
Mhm. Yes.
but this was what bothered me. See this inside stuff here?
Mhm.
That should not be there. That should not be part of this surface.
Hmm.
Okay,
It's
trying it.
stitched
So
together. Yeah.
yeah, so but I mean it's simple enough.
Hmm. Interesting.
Just see, all we would do is just get rid of those triangles.
That is interesting. Yeah, I never thought about that.
So we could certainly do that, or just take this inner line and use that as an exclusion boundary. So
No. Yeah.
that's what's
There's gonna
called a
be lots there, but and there's gonna be a pond there, but I see what you're saying.
yeah. But our road touches down on the existing ground. That's our targeted surface, or
For now. Yeah. For
yeah,
now. Yeah.
or we have a different surface underneath it because we graded it to have it, and then the road needs to touch down on that surface either
Hmm.
way.
That's interesting. That
So,
is interesting.
so let's say you do go in here and build a pond, or you grade out for something else, then
Yes.
it can't build this. Uh, oh, I'm not looking at the surface view. I was looking at the 3D view. So with the surface, that,
Very interesting. Very interesting.
and let's display it. And let's make the ones that
Kind of filled it in.
yeah. So
And
that
it isn't even a loop. It isn't even a road loop to itself.
correct. So, but I mean the road
Okay.
loops. There's a contour across the road, but that road, pretty dead
It's
flat.
pretty flat.
These are 1 foot contours, right? And you got these little things here, and you get into the road, and there's one contour there, and that does not vary by a foot all the way around.
It should. Yeah, it's not following something. The road's a little bit too flat. I know it's a flat road, but the profile goes in at least a 0.5%, and over that length, you should drop at least. I should see a couple different M contours.
Well, that's another possible point of
I don't know if it's following the profile.
that's what I,
Oh,
that, and
oh, it's not following the profile. Somehow we lost a profile.
no, that's the profile. There's that 100 foot vertical curve. There's a 2% up, a 0.5% out, and then a nearly dead flat, but a little bit. Uh,
I'm thinking that it's I know what. I'm thinking that this is the whole profile. It's no longer the whole profile. It's now
oh,
a
that's
hunk of.
correct. That's correct. It stopped here at 1200, right?
Yeah, but I thought I at least had a 0.5% slope on the negative side. That is, yeah.
I think it's
I
negative oh 02.
that's I don't remember ever that number. Yeah, for some reason the bottom anywhere from 355 on something happened. Yeah, it's no big deal. Yeah, it at least should be a .05 a a 0.5%. There's your
Yeah.
.5 up, and I
And if you wanted to make this one a negative half a percent out, uh, then
Yeah. I
here's what
I
we need
just
to do. So negative 0.5,
I thought that yeah.
then
Maybe
that,
I'm wrong. Well, that's too low. Well, yeah. Maybe it is point. Gee, that's I don't know. That
well,
uh
if we did that,
because of the floodplain, I can't lower that.
so if we did do that though, if we came in here to change this to make this work, then we have to make sure to remember to take this elevation, this new
Mhm.
calculate 575, 78, and use it as the starting elevation of the second one. I
Well,
want,
for right now, maybe we ought to leave it alone only because
yeah, because,
we're doing something. But I don't
yeah,
think the town engineer is going to allow a longitudinal road slope less than a half a percent.
I would
I
say
might
you're
even I
right.
might I might even have to redo the whole.
So here, this one is, see, there's that negative 0258 starting here. Okay. And it stays that all the way up until it gets to that station, and it's got a
Mhm.
2% up. Well, that's because that's coming across the intersection. That's climbing the pavement, you see.
I think five. Yeah, the whole thing that was driving this was the floodplain
Mhm.
elevation, which was 576.8. Therefore, if you work backward from the lowest finished floor elevation at 578.8, because there's a minimum of 2 feet to cover, and you work your way backward toward the center line of the road, I think 578.3 or something was the lowest I could get that center line of road in order to keep them finished floors above the floodplain when we do elevate lots,
Right,
or
right.
when we do elevate pads. And maybe it is .02. Maybe I got to rethink this. We could do that later. I might have to rethink this profile.
Okay. But see, keep in mind though, is that if we change that slope coming out to the end of the first road, which ends at 1200,
Yeah, we got to copy and paste it or write it down, and so we
yeah,
could put it here.
so that's where this one starts.
Yeah,
But beyond just that, so
it's got to end there too.
let's say we bring it down here, it has to end right here,
Yeah.
wherever that one goes across the front. So that
Mhm.
may be that we have to affect, all the way back, and that's, wherever that intersection happens to be, up here in the middle. You see, that's going to be at whatever that
Mhm.
6 and 650, wherever that intersection is. 6 plus 36 is right in there, so maybe 6 plus 40. Wherever the center lines connect, because this road is coming in. So we're right before 6 plus 50 on this road. So as we're coming, let's see, 650 right in here. So yeah, so right there. Let me get this a little bigger so you can see it. So right in there, we're going across where that road intersects. All right. So when we saw the other road, you saw how high it was over the existing ground, and it was consistently almost flat out there. That's because where this one ends right here is where the other one starts, and it has to go throughout its length and tie back in right where this one is. So you see that has to be that same slope, and
Mhm.
it continues. So uh, if we were to, all right, so remember those stations. Let me calculate this. I just had a thought. I'm going to
Okay, 7.
I'm going to close this, and I didn't make any blind changes, so I'm going to say no. And I'm going to go back to our archived data set and load that one up and look at those profiles. Pre-dual alignment. There we go.
Mine, yeah, that's about right.
So I'm now
Yeah.
switching with all of the data files that correspond.
Mhm. Sure. Yeah.
And as soon as this gets through loading,
I ran it. I ran a quick site ops using the best fit profile, and I, uh, I can't import because there's no feature in there to, but it did. It's makes sense. It gave me a 0.25 minus 0.25%. So I guess we're gonna have to go with minus 0.25.
yeah, that was,
Um, because if I do it any steeper than minus 0.25%, we're going to have a situation where our finished pads are going to be lower than the floodplain. So I have really no choice. I mean, I could raise grade. If I raise the grade to make the minimum slope coming down the hill 0.5%, then I'm going to eat more wetland.
yeah,
So
because
I got two problems. I'm going to chew up more wetland.
right, because you got to get that, you got to get it back down to ground, unless you,
Yeah,
put retaining walls in, or you don't want
I
that.
could
You
I could
build
take a
great.
few screenshots and email them to you. Let me.
No, I mean I understand perfectly what your problem is with it. So
You want me to share your screen just for 1 second? Then I'll share it
have I
back to you.
have I not been sharing it?
No,
Oh, you want me to?
you've been sharing it, but I want to share mine with you because
I say it. I'm sorry. Yeah, I
let me.
thought. Yeah, let me.
I
Oh, I'm
uh,
so sorry. I
see.
panicked there
No,
for a
no.
minute.
I just minimized your screen
Yeah,
temporarily because
yeah, let me-
I opened the site ups,
mhm,
and this is I put the whole thing on this profiler, and you can see where Tonawanda Creek is here, and there's the low point um, using all my criteria, and then you're going up. So this is as high as she went here, and then it's coming down at 0.25, and I I I cheated and put all the driveways in, so
yeah,
but you can see there's that little spike area,
yeah.
and the lowest it's getting is right here. Um, although it's yeah.
Look,
So
look at your slopes coming out of that though. You're at 0.5%, so
yeah, yeah.
the part's not
It's
bad.
if I can yeah, yeah, I just wanted to show you that. I mean, I guess let's just continue um with the flat slope. Let's not screw around too much with the vertical curve until we straightened out the situation with the templates. I guess that's the best way I could stay. So you can share again. I just wanted to show you what I did. Um,
Right, but also what you showed there too is you had in this zone you actually were coming down.
yeah, that's the well, site ops did that.
Right. Right.
I mean, we
Well,
could do that later.
but I mean
Just when you're optimizing through site ops, it's trying to keep your stuff, keep your road work to a minimum, and that's why it needs to be closer to the existing ground as it goes through there. And that's which
why,
would help which would help the wetland situation as well.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
because you're looking, what are we looking at depths in here? We're talking, uh, well, not very deep. It's like 2.5, maybe 3 feet. Right there's 3 feet.
Yeah, I mean,
So
uh
it's not terribly.
I might have to rethink the whole thing. I could save myself some wetland disturbance. I'm already on the fringe. I can't go above a half a acre, and I'm like at 0.49. So I could buy myself some comfort by doing something like you're doing right now with that vertical curve like that. And you know, we can there's something funky going on now, but we can take a look at that after we solve the transition problem. I would say we got to, you know,
There we go.
once we get this the template transition and the vertical curve, then I'd like to start practicing elevating lots and property lines. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I still have a half hour of free time before my schedule hits the fan. I got another conference call coming up.
This thing's screwy. What's going on?
Some there's quite a few there's quite a few vertical curves or something, and I don't recall there being more than 5. It's showing like 10 or 12.
It's got the center line, and then it's got the edge of pavement, and then
Okay.
it goes to the first real PI. But then it
Yeah,
keeps
I guess
going in.
it's making intermediate vertices. I don't know if that's
No, these
it
green
can't it's
dots, those green
yeah.
dots, those are your horizontal PCs and PTs, and you can
Okay.
hit the setup and turn off
Okay.
the show the
Yeah.
line special stations.
Yeah.
If you turn that off, they go away.
Okay. All right. That's yeah, it was for some reason it was becoming funky. I don't know why.
And so now if you, oh shoot, come on, add a point. I want to edit this point. See when I pull that down, that and this one over here goes kablooey, and that
Yes.
one. See, and look what it's doing. It's putting, a 9,000 foot vertical curve in there.
Yeah. It's just maybe just
Well,
a quirk, a program quirk with the profile editor.
no,
Maybe.
let's see, it's, if I
My
drag,
if you're trying to do it by K, I think they gave me a minimum of 7, which
yeah,
doesn't mean too much. I
here's,
mean, that's what they wanted me to use, the highway department.
right. Well, here's what I was, see how the curve length stays the same now?
Yes,
That's
it's
because
locked.
I went back to here
Mhm.
and I said, when you were dragging, see this drag PVI options, it was
Yeah,
set to holding the sight distance. That's why, because
I
of the
gotcha.
sight distance, it shoved all that around. So if I'd say hold the curve length, or you can
Mhm.
hold the K value, any of that kind of stuff, that's why now that'll stay and I can adjust it as I need. But then I would go to, say maybe in here, no, keep going, add, that's what I want to do. I want to add one in here of, let's do the same thing. And then finally, I would add one in here to sort of, oops,
Yeah, as long as we keep it,
come down here, make a little,
I think our lowest elevation we could possibly get at any 7er line is 576.17, and we're well above that here. So, based on this, none of our pads are going to elevate above the 2 foot above floodplain.
yeah, so we've got,
So 576.17 is the magic number, and this looks like a lot better profile to me than what I originally did, which I was taking a stab in the dark. Then I ran a site ops off to the side on another screen that I just showed you.
yeah, but now also keep this in mind. When we get to, I say that's 1,000, that's 1,500, so 1,200 is about right in here. So
Mhm.
whatever that elevation is on this, now this is, we're looking at the old data when this used to be all the way around, the whole length of it till it hits back on itself.
Yes,
So that's what those two double lines up there show that, and the profiling works correctly. It's just that the grading doesn't work until you make it two separate alignments. So
that's right. That's
so
right.
with the profiling, being held, you see, I don't have the option to pull this connection point down here.
No, because
That
that's the
point
road.
is
That's an
set.
intersection.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
point is set based on it. No, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's an intersection. You can't really modify it and
Well,
uh,
here, yeah, we can't. Well, we can. And what we have to do is we have to find it. Let's see if we knew what that was. I don't know what station.
we'd have to, yeah, I think I calculated the station on my original
Well,
drawing.
it's plus 40 something. So let's just say what we would do is while we're in this editor, I would
Yeah,
come down here because that has to change. That is set. The intersection is set when you process,
right.
and that's what pulls it to that location. So what I would do is if I know the stationing,
Uh-huh.
let's just call it 645.
Mhm.
Um,
It was, let me see here.
sorry, it's 645. Is that six? Yeah, 645. So that's 578.13. So that would then be what this elevation needs to be. And of course, I would take out, this that that one before I got to that one, or I would edit it. So let's just say it's 645. You put this in the station down here, and it's going to track for you what it is back here at that station. So this is 578.133. Then I would change this to 578.133. Um, and then I want see what it does there. So
Mhm.
then I would, uh,
You'd have to manually set the,
yeah,
yeah.
so then I would take this as an edit now, and
Mhm.
I keep getting the wrong button. So I would actually probably, pull that down to where this is a
Yeah, as long as,
slope. That's
well,
a
as long as
slope.
I get a half a percent of slope, but it's really flat in there. I'm not going to get too much drainage even in a concrete gutter,
Yeah, so I
you
might
know.
even take this one out. I'll just remove that one. And then I'm going to take this one,
That's a lot better looking
pull that
profile.
here. I'll hold that elevation, 578.33. Um, let me change this length now to let's make that that's a little better.
Mhm.
So that might be a little something to consider. Now, you also got to remember too, that's a fit. This is what it really looks like.
Mhm.
That's there's not a lot of rise and fall.
Well, there can't be because I can't go too high because of the wetland, but I can't go too low because of the floodplain.
No, I understand.
Yeah, that's it's going to be a pretty flat road, but if we can get point 0.5, like I'm seeing some grades here above point 0.5. I'm seeing some like minus 0.28. I don't know how the town engineer is going to respond to that.
So which
But
what were you saying? You say 0.5 is your minimum,
well, yeah, I technically they
or is,
don't want a gutter, even if it's a concrete gutter. I've
yeah,
never gotten a concrete gutter under point 0.4.
right.
I mean, if there was no concrete gutter, um, there's no way they would even consider anything below point 0.5. Now that I have a concrete gutter and a curb, they'll reconsider that. They'll reconsider that.
Yeah. So I'm coming up here at a negative point 0.6.
That's fine.
And then from there up, though, I'm only at 0.4. So I could do
Yep, be
a
almost the bare minimum right there. If you set
little bit and then pull this one up.
mhm.
So
Yeah,
now
that's looking a lot better. Yeah.
6.6, except I'm here.
That's looking better.
Then that goes to, well, that's 0.8 up to that one, but this is only a negative point
Mm.
3 down through here.
The problem with that one is you can't drop it too much because then it'll go. It's
No,
576.8 now. If
yeah,
it goes below 576.17, we're into the soup.
right. Well, then we could still do, still resolve this a little bit better.
Hmm.
But we can
You can
take,
almost manually enter 1250. That one right there, 1258.74. You can almost manually enter the bare minimum elevation 576.17 and see what it gives you for a slope.
yeah. So
But
this,
it's not going to help you much.
what is that? 576.1.
17, yeah.
Well,
Let's see what it gives you. See, it didn't get, got it almost up to point 0.4. You know, for me, it's not the end of the world, but they're gonna say, hey, you're gonna have to put a lot more
but wait,
catch
wait.
basins
All
on slope rather than on sag.
right. So that means this point here is going to need to be just a skosh higher. Is that right? Yeah.
Maybe that would do it. Moving that up a wee.
So if we brought that up just a skosh, and then
There, it's
yeah,
pretty close to minus point 0.5.
yeah.
Pretty close.
But where does that go with what? Now, here's the other thing. Now that we've made these interior changes, I don't remember.
Mhm.
Here's this 645. That means that 578, 365 should be that one, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, bear
as
with me. At
this,
one point, I actually marked down
yeah, tell me what that is.
the
I,
intersection. I marked it down.
I'm looking.
When this was a one piece
Well, here
deal.
I can tell this. Let's see. I can at
Let
least
me let
load.
me just make it easy.
All
I
right,
think
so
I
I'm
remember. I'm gonna write it down so I don't forget it. But
see that right there. So I'm at 6 plus 33.3 right there.
yeah, the loop where it loops on itself is exactly that. It is
6 plus
um
33.8.
633.79.
That's the PT.
Yeah.
That's
Oh.
yeah. So we're really. I can't
That's
just
not quite right. Yeah.
zoom in a little so I can get more. Try and get a smaller.
Figures my computer's not crashing, but it's
No, right
633.
there,
Well,
right there is 637.35.
yeah. Let me write that down. That's the magic. That's where 637.35 is actually where the end of the road 14 plus 19.94 meets the loop. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's its station, and it meets it at that station. I mean, as close as I can get it to sit on there. And I could exit this and come back to it. I was just trying to stay in this editor. And so let's call that 637,
Mhm.
35. Whoops, 25, 35. Then that becomes 578, 321 for,
Mhm.
oh, look at there. For whatever reason, went away. I must have hit delete. That was 578, 321. So 578.321.
Mhm.
All right, so there you go. Now you've got
Mhm.
0.7, 0.6, 0.5, and 133.
Mhm.
And that 133 is what really will be 2% at some point when it goes
Not bad.
back when
I
it.
mean that's a nice looking vertical curve compared to what we had before.
Well, we
Um.
basically came up and stayed flat, and
Yeah. So
uh,
the question, well, we can't use this anymore because we chopped it in half. But
right,
if
but
I
we
added a station at 637.35, would it interpolate what the grade is, or would it muck it up?
This, you mean if you put a PI there, a PVI?
Yeah, yeah. It would interpolate what what it should be at the very end, 1419.93.
Yeah, but this one won't force it until we process
Oh,
it with road.
okay.
If you
Yeah.
process it with RoadNet, oh, I don't know. I don't even think that,
It would. Yeah, we better not do that because yeah,
because it
yeah.
will, if you do try to process it, see,
It might try and add a vertical curve.
well, yeah, no, I mean, the vertical curves it tries to add are just to get you
Mhm. Yeah.
crossing pavement. But what it does is when you have an intersection,
Mhm.
you have to declare one of the roads the main road and the other the side road.
Mhm.
And then you choose whether you want to hold the main road crown and force the side road to go up 2% and down 2% as it crosses the pavement. Or you want it to just, when it hits the intersection, just blend everything like your choice of radial from curves. Okay.
Mhm.
But, and whichever way you have it, if you say radial from curves, it's going to actually uh, set those triangles in like that, and then it's going to back out the
Mhm.
side roads profile to follow those shifted blended triangles. And so that's why you get a little bit slightly less than 2% sometimes when you have physically two roads that intersect or cross. Because as it crosses between these two yellow lines, see, it's actually reading, and again, when RoadNet does the processing, it knows what happens between these two lines, and it's typically up 2%, down 2%. That's the thing you're crossing. Okay, as long as it's, if you're crossing the main road, and if you said hold the main road crown, if you're not holding the main road crown, then when you come in and you first set your ending elevation, which it already knows because of the profile elevation, but then when you process, it recomputes the surface and it takes this side road that hits this center line for the main road and it changes right in here. It puts in these little fudgy, little
Mhm.
15-foot
Yeah.
PVIs to get you up and over across that center line. And it does the same thing to the main road. So what you wind up doing is every time you have what we would normally think of as just a single PVI, you'd sometimes get three
Mhm.
or even seven. You have two up on the side, two on the far outside, and then you got one to get to the edge of pavement, and then one across the crown at the center line. But it's a zero length vertical curve, but it's still at PVI, so it still counts as a vertical curve. So now to do something like what we've got here, though, is we could try this, and but now we're going to wind up, what we would do is we would take this and look at the 1200 mark.
Mhm.
That's its elevation right there. Okay, so that would be the ending elevation for
Mhm.
uh, entrance road one. I forget what we call the road, Towpath
Mhm.
road,
Mhm.
main. And then we'd use that as the starting elevation for Towpath end and make sure we set the end elevation of Towpath end to whatever that station value is, 637.35 or whatever,
Mhm.
is exactly as the end. And then that should make for a nice thing. Now, the only thing you got to figure out and got to ask yourself, is what's going on in here? Can we
Mhm.
dig down into the ground in there? This spike I would disregard. I think
Mhm.
that's either something out there, but it's so
Mhm.
insignificant in terms of,
Mhm.
it's really
Mhm.
not. Uh,
Right.
it's not
So,
it's right here,
uh,
5 feet. So
right. What do you so what do you advise we do from here? Should I take a screenshot of this and apply it to the two to the now two separate road pieces. We could do that.
We could, yeah. And
I think that's the next. I don't know what's the next step here to move this thing along to. I know we're
well,
still waiting.
yeah, let's try that. I'm not going to hold my breath waiting on Carlson to resolve that other thing, and I'm I'm going to go ahead and let it do what it does and clip off that surface. That's fine with me because I'll just rebuild the surface anyway. You know,
Right.
I can pick that part up. I've got to dress that intersection up anyway.
Mhm.
I really don't want to get into trying to,
Make the dummy road.
yeah, to make it model it as an intersection because then I got to treat that somewhere else. When I'm able to use template point center lines and template point profiles, I have so much more finer control
Mhm.
over this modeling process.
Mhm.
Because if I wanted to go out there and have this thing do a figure eight turnaround dancy kind of step, I can do it. Well,
Mhm.
not quite figure eight. I can't cross myself, but
Mhm.
you get the idea. So that
Mhm.
forces those points to sort of dance to my tune. But just because I'm at the start or the edge of an alignment, and maybe it would do this if I ended at another place too. I don't know, because the end of this road is itself. It's not coming back into another existing ground. Then I would suspect it would behave the same way. So if we did, oh, I'm trying to think while I'm talking to you here, Andrew.
Mhm.
Uh, we talked about putting that negative 19, whatever that distance was to the center of Toa. Why can I say that? Tawanda? It's not Tawanda, is it? Uh, anyway,
Yeah. It's yeah.
the
Pretty
main
close
road,
enough. Yeah. Mhm.
the main road out there. So so one thing you could do is if you have that road defined as, let's make the edge of the pavement the center line, and it has um, a template that has its edge of pavement or its TG that is zero distance away from the center line, or maybe it might have to be like 0.001 or something. I don't know. So if we define it that way, then the intersection will be exactly at the intersection. That would be fine. That would make it
Mhm.
chop off at the right spot. So that's a good question. I think I'm going to try that. Yeah, and which we can go through it right now if you want to do it, or I can do it offline. I don't want to hold you up either if you're um, time wise if you want to look at anything else. But I would I would say doing something like this, as long as,
Mhm.
see, my concern out there is, let me take a look at what you've got.
Mhm.
Let's see, I'm at station two. Well, I keep forgetting I can do this because I usually have that up.
You're about 300.
Right? But what I wanted to do was this.
Mhm.
Uh, you're in this low spot.
Mhm.
Is that a problem to be low in that spot?
No,
I
because
mean, in terms
the
of,
lower you are, the better, because that's a big hunk of swamp.
okay, I mean, I'm just thinking in terms of being out here. And is that our wetlands that we're trying to minimize?
Yeah. Um. You see that anywhere you don't see a house is
Yeah.
the area we're trying to minimize disturbance in, and the
Okay.
reason why we couldn't put one there is because
Well, so uh,
we're trying to
can,
minimize disturbance
so
right
should
from about 100 to 300,
right in there.
200 to 400. Sorry.
Yeah. So at that point, I mean, should we try to get down to this? Uh,
We could, but we can't go below 576.27
right. I just mean, should
because
we try to hit the ground here and not go quite? Of course. What's our depth
we
in that?
could.
We're only we're only a foot deep.
what we could do is, well, I can't drain the road into the property, but I was going to get rid of the crown at the property line at station 13.2. But I was going up 2%, and then I was starting the grades down so that all the drainage in the site could be self-contained, because the two catch basins on either side at 13.2 are going to drain back toward the pond,
Right.
you know. So, but yeah,
All right. But
eh,
now, oh, here, there it is, 1329 right there.
yeah,
That's
yeah. That's about that's that's about yeah. The only reason I try to do that was so that the right of way could drain toward itself, which is what they want,
yeah,
and
no
then
problem there. So,
yeah,
so when you're coming down from the property to, you say about a 2%, yeah, 2% down.
yeah,
So you hit their edge of pavement. Now their edge of pavement's going to go 2% back up. So you're going to
yes,
have edge of pavement act like a little gutter almost.
that's exactly right. Remember, there's not going to be a ditch anymore, so um,
Mm,
there's
yeah,
going to be a ditch
correct.
up the road, but I'm filling in the ditch with.
So what do you do with the water then from now obviously you're going to catch it here and
Well, yeah, there's going to be a catch basin right where the property line is,
yeah, so
and the
you
pipes will go back
they'll
toward a pond, which is in the.
go this way. But now what do we do with this water that comes down to the edge of pavement?
Um,
And it's not much, but it's damn near, well, it's not really flat across there, is it?
there's very little relief, but I have no choice but to have it flow.
So
I
it's
have
going to
no choice
flow,
but to.
yeah,
I
it's
can't
going to,
put any
well,
catch
it's going to
basins
flow
in
down
there.
that, it's going to flow down that crease. It's going to go from 578.18
Down
to
the yeah. It's gonna
03.
flow southeast.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, so good Lord, it's dead flat anyway. So,
It's gonna puddle there, but that's the problem of the you know highway
well,
department.
yeah, but I mean, it'll come out there. But when we
Very
get
rural
finally,
road.
when we get finally off of this stuff, of course, you're going to be filling this stuff in. I'm just wondering.
Well, I'm wondering now that you said that, I'm wondering if it's worth it to leave the ditch and have some culverts under the driveways.
That's what I'm wondering too,
I got some other problems there with
because that's going
utilities,
to
but
come down just that apron. Now, there's not a lot of water there, but there's some.
it's gonna pond there.
Well, plus you're going to have the road shedding into it as well, not just from your side down, but the center line down. So it's
Yeah.
going to shed there, and then it's going to. So it needs somewhere to go. Now you could put another catch basin out there, but I don't think that they would necessarily want a catch basin in their right of way. They might allow it. Um,
Yeah. It's
could.
gonna be interesting, but I mean, I got to propose something to start kicking the can down the road, and okay. So,
On or
well,
on. Yeah.
here, let me make. I unfortunately got to cut off in 5 minutes, but
Okay.
what do you want to? Let's just wait for them. I know we were not going to hold our breath for them to come back with an answer,
But
but in the meantime, do you want to have another session, or it's no use until we get an answer?
no, I think we can push ahead. I don't know that they're going to have something for us in time to be able to do the work. Um,
Yeah,
but what I'd
yeah.
like to do,
I'm not sure what to do next.
yeah. Well, what I think I'd like to give a try to though, Andrew, is to let's like I can live with things as they are now. I can live with having to have two alignments. I can live with that
Mhm.
front doing that screwball thing because I can fix all that. That part's no problem. Um, and plus the fact that you're not dealing with subgrades that greatly simplifies everything in terms of reporting. But
Mhm.
what I'd like to do is I want to try this. I want to try this particular profile.
Yes. Let's let's
And
let's
what I'll
let's
do is
do that
I'll
and
take
reconvene. Yeah,
I'll take these numbers and I will apply that to
to the
those
two
two
pieces.
lines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
and then reprocess it and see what it looks like, because I want to see where it touches down, and I want to see if that's, are we coming up with a better situation? Because I think this is going to give you better approval odds on that longitudinal minimum.
Absolutely. Plus, the wetland disturbance will be smaller.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think that's a good plan going forward. I didn't really want to go into elevate lots or retaining walls or elevating pads until the road was
yeah.
airtight. I don't know if we're going to be
Well,
able to do that, but
that's what I think. What we can do is to make sure that that our road works first before we go to, and like see where my crosshairs are in the profile right there.
yes,
That's my really sort of highest point. I've got some fill in there,
which is perfectly fine. Yeah.
and so you've got houses in here anyway, so it looks like
I
we're gonna,
got basement, so there's going to be some
yeah.
fill left, so
So you're gonna have, there's.
I got two big
I just
ponds, so
want
I'm
to
going to have enough
make sure.
fill. Yeah.
I just want to make sure that I'm not, like right here's my little low spot, and I'm digging into the ground a little bit. So maybe I'll need to pick that up, but I'm only like a foot in. But I want to see how much that spreads, because you see where this spread was now.
Mhm.
Um, when we looked at the previous
Mhm.
profile, that was way up here, where the
Mhm.
hand is on the screen, on the profile editor, where that little hand is showing.
Yeah, we weren't helping ourselves.
Right. So I'm just wondering if we can get this even a smaller impact, if that's going to be doable. Now here's my question to you from an engineering standpoint, though.
Mhm.
What is that going to be like, trying to build that road in the wetland anyway? Let's say we're going to minimize the impacts, of course, but we've got to. I mean, what do you do there? Do you have to over excavate and fill it back with an engineered base, or how do you
You
handle
do.
it?
What would happen is um, the geotechnical engineer is going to have to take a boring there, and I'm
Mhm,
going to have to take a sample of how deep the spongy soil goes, so I know how much of overburden to excavate.
mhm.
Um, I mean, it's really clayey soil, but um, the bearing capacity is the key. I mean, a lot of wetlands have clay, which is okay for bearing, but I did another one of these where the soil was so spongy, I needed to have a settling plate, and we needed to go out there weekly to see when the consolidation was starting to reach, uh, you know,
Yeah, we've
you
got
know,
we've got stuff like
zero. Yeah.
when we're putting in, even, like large interceptor sewers, when we run them down by the rivers, and these, it's called the Three Rivers area here. The Three Rivers
Mhm.
Stadium and all that. But I mean, we've had miles of this stuff that we have to actually put these concrete pads under the sewer line. They
Mhm.
call them mud mats here,
Mhm.
because the ground is just mud all the way down. So,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, the ground here is clay, but it's just very, very, very wet. And I think the guy made the mistake of creating this by doing some work on the site, and he excavated, he put some stockpiles. I think that spike you see in that profile
uh-huh.
is a fake. He dug some holes. I don't know what in the world he was doing, trying to get cute. He dug a hole or two that he shouldn't have, and he stockpiled the soil. And our center line of road happens to go right through a really like a 5 foot stockpile of stuff he dug up. You can see the spike right by 1,000.
Yeah, well, I see. Yeah, and of course, it
And
looked very exaggerated here, and I saw that it was about 5 feet high. So, um,
well, yeah, I mean, he's a first timer, and God love him, but he created the wetlands himself.
well, that's
Their
yeah,
cattails grew. Somebody came in and said, "Hey, you got yourself a problem," and now I'm stuck.
I know. So the first advice I give all my clients is, "You got any cattails?" And if they say yes, and I say, "Well, you got a lawnmower," because you're not going to build in it. I can tell you that. And
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just, and if they're real wetlands, of course, I'm all for preserving those. But if you're talking about a 50-foot patch in your lower front yard,
Hmm.
uh, you know, by all means, good heavens, you don't stop, you know, this kind of,
No, I mean, if they were isolated, that's fine, but somehow these were connected to the creek,
yeah,
so I couldn't get off on the isolation thing. Um,
true, true.
but they're not high quality. I mean, well, if you went to Google Earth, you could see the site. It's going to be desirable when I finish with it. Like, it doesn't look like I in that rendering I sent you right now.
Yeah,
It looks a little bit different,
but
but
it's
that was
gonna,
the pitch I threw
yeah,
the
it's gonna,
Canal Authority.
I think so. Um,
Thank you much. Hey, look, I think we made some progress with this centerline profile.
yeah,
Um,
we'll do that. I'll take a peek at this then,
yeah,
in the off hours, and I'll touch base with you again in a
let's
couple
do
days.
it maybe next week.
Yeah, because I've got to finish up some stuff on this pump station job for Alcosan,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
through the end of this
I,
week. So
I'm really urinating on a bunch of fires on my end too before they burn the forest down. So I should be have some breathing room next week though.
well, you know what they did to Gulliver when he put the fire out that way. So just be careful.
Well, yeah, I was. You gotta. I always tell people what the prerequisite is for being
Yeah,
in this business. You have to have a bottomless bladder to
that's right.
keep putting out the fire like Gulliver. So
And if you have a
yeah,
problem with that, you just have to learn to drink more. So
that's
that'll,
true. That's yeah, yeah. But you gotta have the bottomless bladder before you can even attempt.
true enough.
So,
You know.
but I thank you. And
All right.
what I'm gonna do, I'll hit you with an email because
Yeah.
I did a screen save,
Yeah.
and that'll help you out.
Yeah, well, I've got the files right here. I'll just say the files, but that way you'll have them too. And now I'm in the archive stuff, so I'm going to save these off with different names, and I'll be able to manipulate them back into
Yeah.
our current
So
set.
long as you keep track of the latest and greatest, because that's what I'm going to end up using when all is said and done, when we actually get house pads here and stuff.
Yep. You know,
So thank
cool
you
deal.
much. We're chewing away at it. This is I'm sure the Carlson people never saw anything like this in their life, as
No,
far as the
that's the
complication.
problem is that although I think David, the head of the programming group, and he's the real brains behind all this stuff, and he's an interesting fella. He's not an engineer. He's a computer science major from Berkeley,
Uh huh.
California, and has a master's in it, and he's really good um, at that whole concept. And he's good at being able to take what people show him, and he understands what it is he needs this stuff to do algorithmically. And I think the
Mhm.
problem is he's never had clients actually come back to him with this kind of a situation. And so
Yeah.
what you do is you go to them with this kind of situation, and then the next time a major update comes along, you've generally got those capabilities. Because I remember when
Yeah.
they used to not be able to do knuckle cul-de-sacs on these intersections,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
now it's no problem. So anyway,
Yeah.
well, I think you said you had to scoot, so I'm going to not hold you up any further.
Okay.
I'll take a few strolls down this what if lane without spinning my wheels and wasting a whole lot of time, and then we'll
Sure.
pick it back up. Okay.
That sounds really terrific. Um,
Okay.
I really appreciate that, and we will touch bases next week. I'll send you an email right after this with that information. So
Yeah, and I will. I'll once the recording of this processes, I'll send you a link to that, and we'll go from there.
many thanks. I really appreciate it. Take care, Ken. We'll talk.
You are most welcome, and we'll see you next week. Have a good rest of this week and a good weekend to follow.
We will try. We'll touch bases. Thank you again.
You bet. All right. Bye bye.
Take care.